Hello, my name is Irvin, also known as Kobo Man. Today's video, it's all about a practice test for CompTIA A Core 220-1002. Previous video we did 1001, so if you want to check that out, it's also a good one and it leads into this one. Today we're concentrating on this one, 1002 Core A Action. So what's the point of this video? Just like I mentioned in my previous video, is to prepare you for A+ tests. These are free, completely free practice questions. There are also answers from CompTIA itself. You can see that this is directly from CompTIA. So we're going to go through it. We're going to talk about each question, and I'm going to show you how to research every little thing that you may not be familiar with. For example, things that have acronyms, command lines, all these things that are not very common knowledge. I'll show you how to research that. It's very simple, but I will also go through each question and we're going to answer it together. So this is a really good learning practice and it's completely free. All right, question number 1. Which of the following is the best use case scenario for a Chrome OS device? So you guys know what Chrome OS device? Chrome OS device is a laptop that runs Chrome operating system. Very simple, usually very cheap laptop, but they're good for people that just need to do some data entries or some basic college stuff that you need to use it in browsing internet. It's pretty good for that stuff. And if you use Google Apps, it's also really good for that. So here's an example of that. I just did a really good or really quick, I should say, search for it. And you can see that they're pretty cheap. I guess they can get pretty pricey too. But anyways, it's a laptop and it has a Chrome operating system on it. So what's a good best use case scenario for that? They are very simple. Keep in mind, usually very simple. Number 1, or I should say A, it's web browsing and email. Then we got B, photo and video editing. Then we got C, application development. And we got D, database queries. So again, this is a very simple, not necessarily super fast laptop. So what's the most common thing that we can use that for? And that's web browsing and email, right? We know for sure that that's something we can use it for because pretty much every computer can do this unless it's something ancient, right? Something ancient with like Pentium 1 or something. And then we got B, photo and video editing. For photo and video editing, well, for photo, you can probably get away with it for a little bit, but for video editing, you definitely need something that's going to be a lot faster. So B is out of the question. We got C, application development. Not necessarily, because we could be talking about a HTML, which could be fine, but if we're talking about application development as in 3D design or game engines or stuff like that, this thing ain't gonna handle it. So C is out of it. Database queries. Database queries can also demand a lot of processing power, in which case you would query databases, which can take some processing power as well. So chances are for this are very unlikely. Most people that buy Chrome OS device is for web browsing and email. Now, I just want to mention real quick, Chrome OS device is not just a laptop, but it can also be like, those things you plug into your TV to make it a smart TV. So it's like a, something that's going to make your TV smart, I guess. I don't know how else to explain it. Anyways, the answer is web browsing and email. Okay. Question number 2. A technician implements a group policy change and needs to apply it without restarting the workstation. Which of the following commands can be used to accomplish this task? So what is a group policy? Group policy is something that affects a group at a domain level. So let's say you work for a company and you do tech support. Your login ID for that domain or for that computer belongs to a certain group, right? So if you make a change to a group policy, we have to keep that in mind, okay? And then we're going to go through these, answers and see which applies the best. For A, we have a command that says GP update. And for B, we got GP result. And for C, we got netstat command. These are all commands, by the way, if you don't know what these are. These are CMD commands. And then D, we got DISM. DISM. It's a DISM. That's kind of funny. Anyways, so let's Google what GP update does. Okay? So this is how you research if you've never heard of it. We're going to pretend like we don't know anything about this stuff. This is the first time I are seeing it, and some of you are. There's nothing wrong with that. So this is how you do the search. We're just going to right click it and search Google for GP update and see what that does. All right, here we go. Microsoft document for GP update. Let's see, what is that? We're going to click on it. Microsoft being the source for it, so it should be good for it. I apologize, my internet is kind of slow. I'm actually streaming at the same time, so it's taking up a lot of my bandwidth. I apologize for that. Anyways, here we go. GP update. What does GP update do? And here it is. GP update, and here we'll see what it says here. Updates group policy settings. Well, let's see what the question is again. A technician implements a group policy change and needs to apply it without restarting the workstation. We go back here. GP update command updates group policy settings. So here's our answer. Okay, now we know the answer is GP update at this point. It's kind of weird that both of them are A, 1 and 2. The answer to both of them is A. It's kind of weird. Anyways, let's see what the GP result is too. We're going to Google that as well. GP result. All right, same type of source. It's Microsoft Docs. And here it is, GP result. What does that do? What does that do? What does that do? What does that do? I'm sorry, guys. Displays the results, displays the result set of policy. Information for a remote user and computer, right? So this command, what it does is simply gives you information for a remote user and a computer. And if you look at that, and here are examples on how to use it. You can target specific name or a system. And so basically you would type in, where is it? The GP result space /s, and then you specify a system or a computer name or the IP address for that. And then it will display results for that. All right, now let's look at the netstat. What is netstat? Google it. Here we go, netstat. We had netstat on a previous session that we did. And here we go. Netstat means displays active TCP connections ports on which computer is listening, Ethernet statistics, the IP routing table. So it displays the TCP statistics or information for a specified computer. So the way you use it is just simply type in netstat in command line and type in, for example, A to display all active connections. If you want to do something else, you would use these other switches here, and accordingly you would display all these specific things that you need, whatever you need. So if you want to go over this as well, I highly recommend it if you want to learn a little bit more about networking. Very good stuff. All right, let's see what DISM is. DISM. So DISM, let's see, Windows Central. I'm trying to figure out, let's do this one, Docs. I like to go to Docs. All right. So DISM is deployment image servicing, right? Servicing and management. So this is specifically used to deploy images or software that's associated with that. So the way you can use this is to basically push Windows operating system installation, and you can put it like in a different format. You can mount that. You can simply just set it up so it's booting from the network. It's just a way to install an operating system. And DISM here, deployment image servicing and management, allows you to do that in different ways. So instead of just putting in the CD in your computer, installing image or a USB, this gives you different options where you can just, do it differently, basically. But yeah, it's a deployment tool that allows you to deploy these operating system images in just different way and in a more organized way that's used by IT. Okay, so our answer is GP update. We're going to move on from that. All right, question number 3. An end user has requested assistance from the help desk to install new video editing software. Okay, the user wants to create several .wma files. Which of the following should the help desk consider before installing the software? Okay, so for number 1, or I should say A, it's disk space. For B, we got network connection, and for C, we got aspect ratio. and the power supply. So let's think about this here. They want to install video editing software, and the user wants to create several WMA files. We should know by now that WMA files are just a type of video file, which is Windows Media type of file. There is that. If you want to Google it, you certainly can, but it's a video file. And then we know what video is, and we know what editing software is. So it's a piece of software that allows you to make changes to videos, like I'm using right now, basically, the way I'm editing this video in the way. And for that, we kind of talked about this when we talked about this Chrome OS device and how these things are not usually very fast, and they're not very good at doing heavy loads, if you will. That didn't sound right. They're not very good at processing things that require a lot of heavy lifting, I should say, not heavy loads. That didn't sound right. So it's video editing software. We need something that's going to be fast and something that's going to need that's going to use a lot of processing power. So first thing we need, for A, it says disk space. Chances are you'd have enough disk space. You don't necessarily need a whole lot of disk space. You do need disk space for video editing storage, which is fine. I guess that's something to consider. So you do need it in that sense. But in my opinion, for video editing software, you need a lot of CPU cores and RAM. But let's see if they'll even talk about that. Maybe we'll have to come back to this, and maybe that will be the answer. We'll see. You definitely need disk space, but again, not for processing necessarily, but for storage. Because WMA files can be really large. Any video files can be large, but WMAs are, particularly large. And then B, got network connection. See, this is where we get into a point where I could argue that you can set up network connection that shares processing bandwidth between two different computers that will process heavy video editing software. So, okay, let me give you an example here. If you're, for example, doing special effects for a company, right? Let's say these people are doing special effects. Let's say they're making a new Marvel movie or something. Let me tell you, like even 10 seconds of that movie that has all those special effects and all those 3D things can take days to process on a regular computer. You can set up a network connection between two different computers that will distribute the load amongst them. This is also, what's it called when you have multiple servers? Man, I'll have to come. Anyways, basically you're distributing the load between two or more servers or computers, and for that you need network connection. Okay, but in this case they're probably not talking about that. We're talking about a end user, just the end user. But then again, we can get really into detail this. The reason I'm not talking about it so much is because I want you to know there are these things that exist. Not necessarily the correct answer here. Aspect ratio, you know what aspect ratio? For example, this like a square box. If you're looking at the square box video, that's 4:3. If you're looking at the widescreen video, like this video here, it's widescreen. That's 16:9. We don't necessarily have to worry about this. The user is going to deal with this on their own. It's not something we have to worry about. And then we got power supply. Power supply. Your computer's going to work. You have the correct power supply. That's nothing to worry about. So I guess in the end we're going to have to, since we have no other choice, I wish we had CPU and RAM on here, or maybe even a GPU on top of that, like a workstation type of setup. I guess the only thing that applies here is disk space. So in this case, we're going to pick this space simply because we need a lot of space to store these WMA files. That's the only reason, to be honest. Okay. All right, moving on to number 4. Okay, so number 4. I just remembered. So distributing workload between multiple computers on a network is called clustering. That's what it's called. Okay. You can have a server set up in a clustering mode where they are distributing the workload equally. Okay, question number 4. A new security requirement for logging onto a company network has been put in place for all users. So it's a security thing, and all the users will be they're going to be affected by it, by this new security requirement for logging onto a computer network. Okay, so the security is stricter now. Which of the following should a system admin enforce to be the best, to best meet the requirements? Select two. So this work of implementing new security requirements for everybody that logs in to computer or to their computers, I guess essentially to a network, has been in place for all users. So in this case, this is applying to everybody that logs into their computer, whether they realize it or not. They're logging into a company's network. So that's what they mean. They're just logging into their computers, and because all the computers are connected to the network, they're logging into the network, right? Which of the following should a system administrator, in this case you, let's say you're the system administrator, you got the full control of what's going on, you're going to implement this, enforce to best meet the requirements? So what are two things here that we have to change as a system admin to make sure that the system requirements are met? Okay, number one, or I should say A. I keep always saying number one. I'm used to seeing 1, 2, 3, 4, or whatever for answers, but I guess it's letters here. A, strong passwords. Okay, not bad. We got folder redirection. C, we got C, email filtering. We got D, multi-factor authentication. E, we got remote desktop. And then F, we got anti-malware. All right, so we can talk about all these things without necessarily Googling anything. I may have to do it on some of them, but I should be able to just, I think it'll be simpler just for me to just kind of talk about it. So A, strong passwords. We know this is a good idea, right? We're going to have to change the requirement as a system administrator. What we're going to do, we're going to make it so that your password is going to have to be more complex. That's always a good thing. So that's one of the things we should probably pick. We got folder redirection. What's folder redirection? Folder redirection is every time a user logs into their computer, all of these users, whenever they log into their computer, their desktop, usually, just for example, to keep it simple, your desktop receives certain amount of data or certain files automatically to their desktop. So that's what's called folder redirection. They will basically get specific folder pushed to them every time they log into their computer. Okay, that's what folder redirection is in a nutshell. And then we got email filtering. What this does, it filters emails. So it's like a spam filter. Man, you know how you have spam in your email? That's what this is. So we can implement spam filtering. That's not bad either, you know. But we're talking about logging into the company's network or their computers, right? And then we got multi-factor authentication. Aha. We know what multi-factor authentication is. You've surely probably registered for an account somewhere, and that's like a bank account, for example, or anything that requires, for example, your phone to, for example, be a secondary authenticator. So let's say you have a password, you log in your bank account, you type in your password, right? Your login ID and your password, and the bank is like, well, we got to make sure that you are you. So we're going to make you type in our code that we send to your phone. That's a multi-factor authentication, right? There are more than one factors in order to actually log into something, not just password. And that's just an example. It could be an email. It could be some kind of token, meaning as in what they use in VPN. It's a randomly generated code that you have to type in. Anyways, that's what multi-factor authentication is. Just multiple ways. You have to type in multiple things in order to log into something. In this case, company network or their computers. And that's definitely a good thing. And we got remote desktop. Remote desktop is simply a way to access a remote desktop, a remote computer. This is irrelevant to this. Technically speaking, you can set up some kind of weird security thing where they want you to use a remote desktop, especially if it's like a dummy terminal, meaning it's just a basic computer that you'll log in, and to actually access anything on the company's network, you have to initiate remote desktop to get to it. Chances are they're not talking about this here. They're talking about specifically logging into company network. Again, technically you can set up something like this where your main computer is actually a remote desktop, but chances are that's not going to be a setup like this in majority of businesses. And then we got anti-malware. We know this, what this is, anti-malware. Like Spybot or like what's some popular, like McAfee, ImmuneNet, whatever, your Windows antivirus, anti-malware, whatever. You guys know what that is, right? So what's the most likely two things that you should do as a system administrator to justify, or not justify, to basically implement new security requirements for logging into computer network? And yeah, so we're going to pick strong passwords, and we're going to type in we're going to use multi-factor authentication, because we're strictly talking about logging in on to company network, and those are two things that are most related to this. Okay, moving on. Question number 5. Let me take a sip of water. Sorry. Oh, okay, my throat was getting dry. Question number 5. Which of the following password choices increases chance that a brute force attack will succeed? So, brute force attack. Okay, well, we're going to see what brute force attack is here in a moment. But let's see what options we have. So we got A, dictionary words. We got B, special characters. We got C, long passwords. And D, we got capital letters. Now, I know most of you already know what the answer is, but look at what the brute force attack is. Brute force attack, I'm going to Google it. Okay, so brute force attack. Brute force attack. So basically what it is, it's a computer that strictly tries to use many combinations of words or letters to basically crack a password. So let's say you go to a website and you try to log in, and your password is something simple. Let's say banana 123. The brute force attack, the first thing they're going to do is go through most common words, and banana is definitely one of them. So they're gonna try to one of those words at first, and they're gonna try to brute force their way into your account by trying to type in banana 123. But first they're gonna start with banana, banana 1, banana 2, banana 3, banana 4, banana 5. Okay, that's what brute force attack is. A really simple answer. Anyways, let me talk about this here just a little bit more. Yeah, that's what brute force attack is. They try basically all kinds of different passwords to log in. But first thing they're going to do, they're going to try to use some simple passwords, okay? They're going to simple words, simple numbers, combinations, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, stuff like that. But for that, they use computers that are very, very fast. Sometimes they can set up virtual machines that are very, very fast, because when you go to cloud computing, you can get a hold of a lot of processing power. And that's what that is. Okay, knowing that now that we know what brute force attack is, let's look at this again. Number A. Answer A, dictionary words. Right? We just talked about this. They're going to definitely try to use dictionary words first, because they're these are the words that people use normally. Special characters. We all know what special character is, like asterisks, commas, all these things, whatever, umlaut. Those are all special characters. Those are a lot harder to guess. Instead of being banana 1, 2, 3, you can type in banana, and instead of A, type in @. Right? That's a special character. That's a lot harder to guess than, well, okay, it will try at some point to use that. But if you do banana @, and then instead of 1, you type in umlaut, or you type in, comma, question mark, exclamation mark, then it's going to be a lot harder to guess instead of just banana. Okay? And then we got long passwords. Long passwords are definitely always good. They take longer to crack. because brute force attack, it's going to start from very beginning. It's going to start with 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, and after it goes through all the numbers, it's going to go through the dictionary. It's going to start the dictionary. You know, they're going to do banana, banana 1, 2, but then they're going to try also apple, apple 1. You know, so long passwords is definitely going to make it take a lot longer because brute force attacks are they're just going to keep trying until they can get through. And then we got capital letters. Once you add capital letters into a password, it complicates things. So by the time it gets to the capital letters, so let's say you do banana 1, 2, 3, but you make N a capital. For it to actually get to that point, it's going to take a lot longer. So it's going to go first through banana 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then go through, you know, so they're going to try to first B as a capital, and then they're going to try A, and they're going to try, you know, N as a capital, but then they don't know which combination of those things. So this will reduce the chance of a brute force attack to succeed. So the question again is, which of the following password choices increases the chance that the brute force attack will succeed? Dictionary words. Don't use dictionary words. Okay? Combination of letters, numbers, and special characters, and try to make it long is also good. But even if it's like a 5-character password, or let's say, I think usually requirements are 8 minimum. As long as you have a combination of letters, capital letters, and just make a complex password, guys. Brute force will, you know, figure out that you typed in banana 1, 2, 3. That's the moral of the question there. Question number 6. A user connects a printer to a workstation. All right. As the printer drivers are installed, an error message appears. Okay, that's not good. The default drivers appear to be incompatible with the OS. Okay, so the drivers are not working. Which of the following should a technician use first to troubleshoot the problem? What is the first thing you should do when you have a default driver that appears to be incompatible with the OS? It's not working. The driver is not working for this printer. Okay. A, services. Should we look at the services when a technician uses the first? What's the first thing you should do? Is look at the services. You guys know what services are? Here are the services. Look, this is services specifically for my login. These are not system services, but these are services for my login. Should we look at this to fix the printer? That wouldn't be my first thing to look at, just personally. Then we got a device manager. Okay, we're going to type in device manager. Here we go. This is device manager. Would a printer be showing up here? Yeah, possibly. We got programs and features. We know what programs and features. All it does, it has programs installed on it and features of the Windows. Is that related to the printer? Nope. And we got task manager. We got task manager. Here we go. This is the task manager. All right, this is the task manager. And I'm assuming they mean task manager as in, you know, like the first thing that you see processes. So let's look at it again. A user connects the printer to workstation. As the printer drivers are installed, an error message appears. It says the default driver appears to be incompatible with the OS. Which of the following should the technician use first to troubleshoot the problem? So we cannot install the driver to begin with. What should we do here? What's the main problem here? Here's a task manager, then what? Here are the services, then what? What am I looking for? Okay? One thing that can be a possibility, but in our case it's not happening, is that the service for the printer, also known as print spooler, is not enabled. And yes, that would be in services, but not in this services. It would be in the system services. I'll show you. In the system services here, if you go to print spooler down here, here it is. Print spooler. It's running. If this was disabled like this, then no printers would even attempt to install whatsoever. Okay? So I'm going to bring it back because I don't want it disabled. Okay. That's the only reason you would look at services. Task manager, for what? Why would we be looking at task manager? What's here? This is just things that are processing in the background. There's no printer running in the background. Okay, that's out of the question. Programs and features, these are programs. It's irrelevant. It has nothing to do with the printer. And then again, we just looked at task manager again. And just let's go back to the device manager, right? What can you find in a device manager? Well, you can find the list of all the things that are installed, all the devices that are installed on your computer, including a printer. Unfortunately, I don't have a printer installed here, but you can see there's this thing, print queues. These are just the basic, these are not real printers. This is just a converter, but it shows up like a printer. But you can go in here and just update driver, properties, install, and install. So that's the only thing that's relevant here, and that's what we're going to pick. So B, device manager. We're going to go through it and see if we can reinstall and install printer properly, because that's the first thing as a technician should do. Look at the device, because we're installing a device. All right, guys, let's move on to question number 7. Joe, I know it, Joe. A user forgets his password and was unable to log in into workstation. Oh no, Joe. Joe remembers the password later, but he's still unable to log in. Aha. Which of the following is the most likely cause of the issue? So Joe remembered his password later, but he still can't log in. What's going on, guys? Oh, okay. All right, we got A, reset account. We got B, deleted account. We got C, locked account. We got D, limited user account. And we got E, unprovisioned account. Okay? So we got Joe again, a user. He's somebody who's using a computer, forgets his password, and is unable to log into workstation. And then he remembers it later, but then he still can't log in. What's going on, man? Like, imagine you're talking to him. It's like, Joe, okay, you can't log in? You don't remember your password? He's like, no. And then like 10 minutes, he keeps trying it, right? He keeps trying his, whatever he thinks the password is. He keeps typing it. He keeps typing it, type. He tries like 10 different times. And then he's like, oh, I remember it now. And he types it in, still not able to log in. What's going on? He remembered the password. That's the correct password. So the correct answer is, I'm going to tell you, it's a locked account, because there's a limit of how many times you can try it. How many times you can try is usually like 3 to 5 times. It's usually 3, but I've seen it up to 5 times. Depends on what the system administrator sets it up to. But I think it's 3 times by default for everybody. So 3 times is 4th time, it's going to lock your account for trying too many times. Usually when you wait like 15 minutes, it will unlock itself. So the account is locked. You have to go to Active Directory and unlock his account. Let's go back to the answer number A, which is reset account. We don't need to reset the account. This is irrelevant. There's nothing to reset. Then we got deleted account. No, chances are this is somebody who's been using the computer. They work for the company. Why would anybody delete their account? That's very unlikely. And then we got the limited user account. What? No, this is ridiculous. Even if it was a limited user account, you would still be able to log in, right? That doesn't make any sense. And then we got unprovisioned account, meaning that an account that hasn't been set up properly in Active Directory. All right, guys, if you want to know what Active Directory is, I'm not going to Google it, but I do have videos on that. So if you want to check those out, they're good videos and shows you how to do this exactly, all of this stuff. Okay, so the answer is locked account, because he tried way too many times. So if you go into Active Directory, you can unlock him, so he doesn't have to wait 15 minutes. Done. Okay. Question number 8. A user, we got another user guy, reports a phone battery does not last the entire day, and the phone's navigation is slow. Which of the following should technician do first to troubleshoot the device? So he runs out of battery, and then it's slow. Okay. First option is under A, examine the running apps. That's the first that they're asking, is this the first thing you should do? Second, update firmware. C, reinstall the most used applications. And then D, turn off all network services. Okay, so didn't say what kind of phone it is, but we do know basic stuff. We're going to use some logic here. It's a phone battery, and it doesn't last the entire day. We know that if I use my phone all day, whether it's just normally or on a toilet or whatever, it's gonna run out quickly. And why does it run out quickly? Because we're using it. So we know that either user is using it or something else is using the phone battery. Okay. And then phone navigation is slow. What does that mean? Doesn't that sound like there's something using processing power? There's something going on that's causing it to go slow. That usually indicates that there's something else using the processing power. Because remember, whenever you're using a computer or a phone in this case, which is a smartphone, hopefully not a rotary phone. I hope this is not a rotary phone or just like a regular digital phone, that home phone. Can you imagine if they actually meant that? We're assuming it's a smartphone. And this is so silly. Anyways, so phone's navigation is slow. That means that for anything that you do on a computer, for it to be fast, you want to make sure you have free resources, meaning processing power to do it. Otherwise, it's going to feel slow. Okay. So the first thing we're going to look at is examine the running apps. That's what I would do, right? This first thing I would do, it says examine the running apps. We're going to look what's going on, what's running in the background, and see if they're all like taking up all the RAM or CPU power, And then update firmware. Why would we do that? Usually you'd update firmware on anything, meaning for the reason you would do that, it's like for the same reason you would update operating system Windows 10, and that is for security issues, like security patches, updates, little changes to the operating system. No, it's super rare. It's so rare that you would fix this with updating firmware. Unless a really bad version of the operating system or firmware is already installed, that's the only reason you might want to do this. But no, not in this case. Reinstall the most used application? Why? Like, what would this do? All this would is just like reset it. Reset the settings for it. That's it. This wouldn't, whatever. That's not it. Turn off all network services. Why? It's not like, so basically turn off all network services. Why would I want to do that first? We're not talking about a PC. If this was a PC, then you would want to turn off all network services if you see something like this going on. All right, if it's a PC. And the reason for that, if you happen to get a virus that's communicating outside of your computer, and that virus sometimes likes to gather a lot of information at once and send it over the network. That's the only time you'd want to turn off network services. In this case, I would just look at the examiner running apps. I mean, it's a phone. To get a virus on a phone, I haven't heard it yet. Not saying it's not possible, but to get a virus on your phone is super rare. So in this case, I would just examine running apps and close the ones that are just not being used. I would just close them. Chances are, you guys know, there are a bunch of things running in the background. Just go through and close them real quick. That's all there is to it, right? All right, let's go to the next question. Question number 9, right? Yeah, question number 9. Which of the following is the proper way to dispose of batteries? Ah, okay. Not many people actually know this. A, shred. Definitely do not shred. Okay? Do not shred the batteries. Please do not shred the batteries. B, recycle. C, dispose in trash. And D, incinerate. Please do not incinerate. Okay. Do I even have to talk about this, guys? We know that we should recycle batteries. It says on each battery that we should recycle them. Okay. Question number 10. To prevent electrical damage to PC while working on it, which of the following should be disconnected before work begins? Oh, to prevent electrical damage to PC while working on it. Which of the following should be disconnected before works begin? I wonder. A, power cable. B, video cable. C, USB cable. D, serial cable. Now, guys, I don't mean to be mean when I say this, but you should know what all these things are. I'm just saying. And I don't have to Google it. But again, if you really have to look up things like serial cable, I can see some people not knowing what serial cable is. But everybody should know what USB cable is. Again, feel free to Google it. I apologize if I offended anybody. But we all should know what this is. All of these things are video cables and all this stuff. And we know that power runs through the electricity runs through power cable. So we're going to disconnect the power cable every time you work on a PC, to prevent electrical damage to PC or to yourself. You don't want to get shocked and all that stuff. All right, guys, let me know if you like this. The last video I said the same thing. I said that I would make a second one if enough people were interested. I only heard back from a handful of you, which is kind of disappointing because I really want to make more. If we go back, there are a lot more practice tests I can talk about. Look at all this stuff. But you need to let me know. If not enough people are interested, I just feel like it's a waste of time if nobody's going to watch it. You know what I mean? So I'd really appreciate it if you take time and let me know, or leave a like or something, or share it with your friends. That's one way to know. If I see that there are enough views, that means there are enough people interested, right? Anyways, thank you so much for watching. I wish you best of luck. I hope you get this. I hope you get the A+ certification. This is awesome. It's awesome stuff. And yeah, you can check this out. It's free on CompTIA. Yeah, free practice tests. Good luck. Take care. Bye-bye.